This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Greetings, Throckmorton Nation, and welcome to the Two Green Browns podcast with your host, Neil Dunworth. And as always, we are part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. And we are also, both myself and John, you will be able to find some of our musings on Browns Access and at Browns Access or brownsaccess.com. So today, I want to talk to you guys about two prospects as part of the Draft Digest. This is part 6 in the Draft Digest that I've been doing, and it's coming to a close soon as we come up to the Combine. And as you know, I've been focusing on the offensive tackles. So today, we're going to talk a small bit about Calvin Throckmorton of Oregon Ducks and also of Ezra Cleveland from Boise State. And also, I'm just going to discuss a small bit on tackles moving into guard, and is this really a demotion, and should it really be seen as one? You often hear that, certain draftniks will say, well, he's going to have to move into guard, and it's kind of seen as, well, he's not good enough to play tackle, or he's, it's kind of seen as a demotion, or that he doesn't quite meet the standard of NFL, so we move him into a less glamorous position inside. And maybe that may be the case, but I'm not quite so sure that it is a demotion. So we'll be back once again in the next 30 seconds to talk about that. But first of all, here is a little promo from our great friends at Thirst and Goal podcast. See you in 30 seconds.
Do you love NFL football fun and booze? Join us at Thirst and Goal Podcast every Saturday night for weekly NFL coverage, whiskey, bourbon, scotch, and beer reviews. We mix expert football analysis with signature drinks, original segments, and lots of laughs.
Yes, that's right, football fans. Please join us at Thirst and Goal Podcast by heading over to thirstandgoal.buzzsprout.com or search Thirst and Goal on the web. If you're tired of boring podcasts, come join our football party.
And we're back. So as I mentioned prior to the Thirst and Goal guys, please check those guys out. They're really good friends of our podcast. I really like the takes that they have on American football, and also I really like their takes on whiskey. Two things that I really like: gridiron and whiskey, and two of them go well together if you're a Browns fan, as I'm sure you all know. So as I mentioned that today we're doing part 6 of our Draft Digest, and I mentioned that I will be speaking a small bit about the tackle to guard conundrum, and is it really seen as a demotion? So obviously as the draft and more so the combine inches ever closer, we're going to start to hear the inevitable chatter of this prospect, while as a functional tackle at the college level, will most likely shift inside the guard at the next level. And, we've heard that some top talents such as Andrew Thomas, Tristan Wirfs, etc., both of whom could certainly play guard at the next level, but it almost seems to be writing off their prospects as a tackle. And I always wondered, why is this, and why does it always seem to sound like it is a demotion? When I look at these two prospects in particular, I personally see no reason to suggest that they shouldn't be able to make the I see no reason that they should make the transition inside. But I was wondering, why do people say this, and why is it seen as such a demotion at the next level? Obviously here in Cleveland we saw firsthand last year that not having somebody stable at the right guard position, well, I suppose we did, but we had a kind of a carousel there for, especially through training camp with Cush and everybody else, I suppose, really. And trying to protect a smaller quarterback up the middle is definitely something that we need. And yes, we did fall upon Wyatt Teller towards the end of the year, and I do hope that over the course of the off season and with the new scheme that he will be a good fit, for what we have going. But why is it seen, as I say, as such a demotion? The history actually shows that the transition can be pretty fruitful for people. You just have to see Zach Martin of the Cowboys, Mitch Morris, or even our very own Joel Bitonio. Joel Bitonio obviously being a left tackle in college at Nevada, and Bitonio was actually, he's quoted as saying that in college he basically said, guard what the hell is that? I don't know how to play it. And now that he's in the NFL, he said that he doesn't even remember that he played left tackle. And obviously, he's being facetious with regards to that. Obviously, he does remember how to play left tackle. And the Browns did look at maybe making him a left tackle again at the next level. But why is it that, moving into the guard position is seen as a demotion? Once you move in there, you can never really move back out again. Well, I looked to see what some of the professionals were saying here, and it was a case really, I came across some comments from TJ Lang, and, he's definitely someone that feels that the move inside is not to be seen as a failure on any prospect's part, and he said that you'll hear it all the time in big networks, that they're doing their scouting reports and they're saying, well, this guy can't play tackle, so he's going to be a guard, and they say that like as if it's a slap in the face, and the act, it's, it's like where tackles go if they can't make it on the outside, but it was never about that, he said. He said he's never really bought that. So I think realistically it's fair to say, and this is something that people never really hide away from, that a lot of this comes down to physical measurables. As these come out, more and more people are slotted into a phase of transition. It's a case of, well, he didn't make the measurements, he has to move inside. And obviously we're going to hear things like arm length, where, 32.5 inches isn't acceptable, but 33 inches is seen as, wipe your brow, thank you very much. You now have a rite of passage to play, or to at least try to play a tackle in the NFL. And for me, you can use that analysis and you can analyze that a small bit, an awful lot, obviously. Look, if there is more people that have this measurable than not. But to me, the measurement of half an inch is negligible from an arm length size point of view, because it doesn't really take into account what they do with their hands, the speed of their hands and so on. And for me, it doesn't scream the end of a prospect, or, it isn't the be all and end all for them. For me, maybe a more plausible reason is, a lack of foot speed or maybe knee bend. We know that knee bend, from looking at some of the previous draft digests, I certainly feel that knee bend is very important. Knee bend along with foot speed. And look, Kevin Stefanski's going to be crying out for that when he starts playing his own scheme with people moving as in unison. So if you can't bend your knees and keep that center of gravity, along with having nimble, agile feet, you ain't going to move anywhere. And you're going to hold up the train as it comes to your side. So having good knee bend and good foot speed for me is very, very, very important, nearly above all else. It's for me, it's far more acceptable reason because, guards, obviously they need to be physical and they need to comprise of a more stocky, probably a more compact build in my view. I think they need to have a more or less kind of a run block first mentality, but obviously be able to hold up their own against pressure coming out the middle as well. So to me, to have that anchor strength for a guard is equally as important as having it out of the tackle. So for me, being kind of writing somebody off as a tackle, as a tackle maybe because he mightn't have that extra bit of push, or he mightn't be as bendable and you might have to move him inside. For me, I don't really see it, because essentially you need to be just as agile if you're going to play in certain schemes. So, to be honest with you, actually thinking about it, you probably even need to be a bit more, to have a more efficient hip roll as well, because you need to create good anchor points on the inside, because when you were playing on the inside, you don't have the luxury of being able to keep somebody outside you. You have to play, quote unquote, the age-old phrase of playing a phone booth, and you do not want to commit the cardinal sin of being pushed back directly into the quarterback slap. And when you think about it, the skill sets for both positions, they paint a familiar picture. So I don't know, is moving from tackle inside really a demotion as such? Like, I listen as well to the Charles Bentley, and Charles Bentley, he's always found it annoying as well to diminish the skill set of the guard as well, to just say, physical measurements don't meet up, he's not good enough to be tackled, so we'll play him in at guard. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is why is it seen as a demotion? And the Charles Bentley really does not like when people diminish the value, that skill set of the guard. He like like TJ Lang says, it's a complete fallacy to do that. So on the inside, he said as well that you don't have the luxury of corralling someone outside to keep them there, using the space as your friend. And for an interior lineman, your point of leverage is at a premium, and I think very much the same as well. So I think overall, from looking at the skills needed, the skills need to be transferable across the offensive line. But the nuances of the position are not as simple as his arms aren't long enough to play tackle, we'll move him into guard. It doesn't always work that way. And I think maybe if somebody has been a career tackle, you should try him at tackle. See how he goes. Don't just write him off because of measurables and move him inside. And that's basically what I'm seeing here. My video study on Wirfs and Thomas in particular, they have to be tried as tackles. People are beginning to talk about them as guards, and it's like, especially Andrew Thomas, who's done nothing and fallen, and for me, it's not that, like, you can't mark him down for things 3 or 4 times just because you're rewatching the same tape. People have watched these tape and nothing has changed. He hasn't done anything. Let's see the combine. And see how he goes. But for me, this talk of Wirfs and Thomas being guards, I genuinely don't see why you would move them in there straight away. I think you have to give them a go at tackling. I think they're going to be damn good tackles as well. Like, take point in case to Brickshaw Ferguson. Everybody was writing him off after 2 years, and he went on to forge a very decent career. Tackle, so measurables aren't everything. Give me a Joe Thomas, 32.5-inch arms, or give me a Jake Long from the Dolphins, 32 and 7/8-inch arms. Give me those guys. That's what I want. I want athletic tackles. Yes, if their arms are a small bit smaller, what about it? It's what they do with their hands. It's what they do with their arms. Can they play in the scheme? Can they get to the point of attack? Are they quick? Are they nimble? Do they keep their point of leverage? You don't want people who lean. You don't want benders, and so you want people who waist bend, should I say, to play at that position. So measurables aren't the be all and end all. When the combine comes around, take it with a pinch of salt. It's exactly like you see quarterbacks who have hand stretching kind of classes and stuff like that, and massages try and make their hands bigger. We hear about all these tropes. So for me, I think take the player as a whole before you write him off as moving him into guard. I think there's an awful lot, and it happens every year, whereby these physical measurements are the reason that people move in. You could be 5 or 6 foot 4, 6 foot 5. You could play absolutely sky high. You could not have any bend whatsoever, and you could be a liability on the inside. So just because you're at a smaller, stockier build does not mean that you make the best tackle prospect and that you can't play on the outside. All right. And with that in mind, guys, I wanted to look at 2 people that have been muted as moving inside. And, they are Calvin Throckmorton, as I mentioned previously, and they're Ezra Cleveland. So Calvin Throckmorton, he was a 3-star prospect out of Newport High School, and he's from Bellevue, Washington. He weighs in at 309 pounds, and he's 6'5" in height. So he played with the Oregon Ducks, and that line was absolutely fantastic. And they've had some really good coaches with Coach Cristobal and Coach Maribel, and they've done some really great things with that line. And there's some great things to come out of there even next year as well, with Penai Sewell as well. So definitely the Oregon Ducks are someone that are people that are able to produce tackles, produce linemen itself, and also they play a zone scheme too, which is quite interesting. But Calvin Throckmorton, certainly one of the most versatile players in college football. He would have cropped up anywhere in the offensive line. And to be honest with you, sometimes when you're trying to scout him, it's difficult because you're trying to figure out, where the hell is he now? Where's 54? Why did he come off there? Jeez, did he snap the ball? Whoa. Calvin Throckmorton seems to be everywhere. But, this didn't hinder him. And, he played some superb football throughout the course of the year. He was the only FBS offensive lineman in 2018 to start at 4 different positions: right tackle, centre, right guard, and left tackle. And he made 38 consecutive starts in the process. So very rarely gives up grounds or sacks in his college career. He's superbly dependable. As I said, Mario Cristobal runs as close to a pro-style blocking scheme as, that you'll find. Calvin Throckmorton, the ability to be able to play across the line in every position, does show some good football IQ. No, regardless of where you play in the O-line, you need to be intelligent. You need to be a smart player. You need to see things developing before they develop. You need to be cognizant of what's going around you. You need to know all of the calls. You need to know snap counts, everything. You just need to be a smart guy. You can't be somebody who really just relies on your physical prowess. You need to have football IQ. And I definitely think that this is, somebody that we would see that would be as dependable and as much of a workaholic at the next level should he be selected. Jordan Reed of the Draft Network calls him boring, and that's actually in a good way, because it's just shoot, his diligence and his pass protection. The power of his punch is evident, and he does let people inside him from time to time, and he does concede ground on the inside when he was playing at right tackle. I think maybe that might be his biggest weakness, is his ability to recover once he does get too far outside. His ability to recover may not be as good as other prospects at this level. But I love the tape against Auburn. Auburn absolutely threw the kitchen sink at him. They had Nick Coe, Derek Brown, Marlon Davidson. They did absolutely everything, and he played really well. He played excellently, considering they were throwing everything off his side because of, obviously, Penei Sewell was at the other side, and they were just wasting their time going towards him. But Calvin Throckmorton had to deal with that murderer's row. He dealt with it very, very, very well indeed. He got into his sets really well. He looked super focused throughout, and this was against one of the better defenses, that he would have faced in 2019. I spoke previously about players moving into guard. This Calvin Throckmorton has been, slated as somebody who moved into guard. In fact, I think when he was called, for the Shrine game, he might have played at guard, and I think even when he was called up to the Senior Bowl, he might have been moved inside as well. And ultimately, I do see him as a guard at the next level, just because I think he's got everything. I think his diligence, he's got very, very good, solid base. He's technically very good, and he's very, very intelligent. Obviously, his versatility is amazing. And to have that versatility, it's worth its weight in gold. I don't like doing comparisons or pro comparisons or whatever, but he does slightly remind me of old Brown's favourite. Well, I don't know, should we call him favourite? But Spencer Drango, who came in for Joe Thomas when Joe Thomas got injured. And he does kind of remind me of him with his versatility, but probably a bit better, a bit more diligent and a bit more sturdy, especially when dealing with on-rushers as well. I think he's probably going to be a day 3 pick. Calvin Throckmorton could go in the 3rd round, I think, if somebody likes his versatility that much, but I would imagine 4th round and below would be somewhere that Throckmorton would see his name called. Should the Browns be circling around looking for a swing offensive lineman, I would have no problem taking him. I do think he's got high IQ, and I do think that he's got good technical ability, and he's somebody that I enjoyed watching an awful lot when I was looking at his tape. Also, as I mentioned, the wonderfully named Ezra Cleveland. I wonder how many jerseys he would sell if we had Cleveland in the back of the jersey and on the front of the jersey as well. No, not a lot of people like it being on the front of the jersey, but if we had Cleveland on the back of the jersey and he turned out to be a good prospect, it could just be a license to print money for the Haslams. But yes, Ezra Cleveland, another 3-star prospect out of Bethel High School, and obviously playing with Boise State, weighs in at 310 pounds, slightly higher than Throckmorton at 6'6". But Cleveland has been a very stable element of the Boise State O-line, for the better part of 3 years. He manned the left tackle position for all but one snap in his college career, would you believe? He's got a very good frame. He kind of moves in a kind of a block format the whole time. He's very disciplined in his movement. It's a very deliberate movement, is what I would like to say. That's when I see Cleveland, as I see an unbelievably disciplined mover. He can get into space and block what's in front of him. When it gets behind him, should I say, that his turning ability and quick shift of weight may be an issue for him. On tape, he looks to have very good arm size, very long player as well, someone that doesn't look like he's got any measurable constraints whatsoever. And as I say, he is rumoured to be a candidate to move into inside at guard, which I don't think will be a demotion for him. I certainly think he could absolutely play in there. If anything, he might be that might be better for him, considering his turning ability. If he's seeing things front on, he's absolutely mauler, and he's really, really good at getting to the point of attack front on. So this could be something that could suit him. Also, his movement, as I mentioned previously, is very disciplined. I think he could play pretty well in his own scheme also. He has a ton to like, when I look at his production as well. PFF graded him as the 5th most productive tackle, not taking into account obviously the strength of competition, but that was the 5th best most productive tackle in 2018, and that was as a redshirt sophomore. He only gave up 2 sacks and 6 hurries in 2018 also. As I say, he does have the length at 6'6", and he could hang another 10 pounds on his frame if needed. You know, he's a pretty slender 6'6", 310. You know, he could stand to bulk up a small bit more with a small bit of muscle, and it wouldn't affect him whatsoever. Yeah, as I said, probably the biggest things with Ezra Cleveland is there are going to be concerns over the level of opponent he played. You know, when you look at his tape, it's not the athleticism that stands out for me. It's the sloppiness of his punches. They're small bit mistimed. He's small bit stiff in the hips. But I wouldn't. That, as I say, that's kind of where he's turning kind of catches him as well. But for me, the biggest thing for him is mistimed punches from time to time. And you know, maybe he's that 10 pounds he could do with putting that on maybe in his lower half as well. You know, just create a small bit more grunt and a bit more push for him as well. But you know, I'm looking forward to the combine to seeing his measurables. I think they'll tell an awful lot. I'll be looking to things like his 3-cone, his shuffle and stuff like that to see what way his athleticism is. But yes, definitely somebody that I think will be drafted. Probably another day 3 pick as well. I'd say more so a day 3 pick for Ezra Cleveland. But I think somebody that we would see stick around in the league. I think he's good enough to stick around in the league. He's got very good, as I say, another guy who's got really good intelligence. He played the left tackle position for, as I say, for all but one snap of his college career. And hey, I don't see any reason why he couldn't play tackle. But if he needs to move in the inside, yes, I think he would be absolutely more than capable of it as well. So there are the two prospects, and as I say, the transition from guard to tackle, or from tackle to guard, should I say. And I just wanted to kind of say a few words on those. As I say, people who do move from guard to tackler, or sorry, from tackle to guard, should I say, I personally don't think it's a demotion. I think it's better use of their skills. And realistically, as we see the NFL change, the offensive line is becoming more transferable in its skill set. You know, so for me, I want the Browns to pick athletic guys who use their hands well, have good technique. Trust your strength and conditioning staff to put on that extra weight. Trust your strength and conditioning staff to make them that small bit more mobile or agile. People can improve, especially guys that may not have been getting the best coaching at college. When they come up into the pros, people can explode and can improve exponentially as well. So I think that is something that could happen with Throckmorton and with Ezra Cleveland too. So as always, guys, thank you so much for listening. You can follow me on at 2 Green Browns. You can follow my co-host John at JohnCahill_IRL. Follow Browns Access on at Browns Access as well, and check out any of the great articles there from a multitude of guys that are writing there recently. Actually, Rochelle has a great, there is an absolutely fantastic article up there. It's an interview with Brittany Mollis from That's What B Said, and it's on Brown's Couch. If you guys aren't following Brown's Couch, there's some really, really good interviews on there as well, some written interviews. I would implore you to follow them. They're really, really good, they're really fun, and they're really well written. So everybody should check that out as well. So that's basically it for me, guys. As I say, please like and share the podcast. Please, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcast and whatever podcast provider you use. If there's an ability to share us, please do. It really helps out the show. So we're coming close to the combine. We're coming close to to a lot of answers, I suppose, for these prospects coming our way, and I for one am really, really looking forward to it. And until then, all that's left to say is go Brownies.